Hey guys, it's Jeremy here on Metal Music Meltdown, back with another video. What I got for you today, guys, is the next installment of my top 10 albums of each year. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you enjoy this type of content, please definitely hit the subscribe button down below and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoy the video. I started back in 1970. I did my top 5 from 1970 to 1979, so definitely check those out in my playlist. And then when I got to 1980 going forward, I decided to bump it up to top 10 because I knew in the 80s with the new wave of British heavy metal and thrash, and then the late 80s death metal coming in, it was going to be impossible to put it down to 5, even 10. Almost every year in the 80s, narrowing it down to 10 is almost impossible. There's always like 5 to 10 albums that I have to leave off. I could easily do a top 20 for every year in the 80s. But let's jump right in, guys. I don't want the video to be too long. And definitely list down below your favorite albums from 1986. If you like my list, if if there's something I missed or something you think should be on the list, definitely leave some comments down below, get some discussion going. And yeah, let's jump right in. So at number 10, I have Queen, A Kind of Magic. Love me some Queen. It's my favorite non-metal band of all time. This isn't one of my favorite albums from them. I'm more of a fan of the 70s stuff. But this had some of my favorite deeper cuts from Queen, such as Princess of the Universe and Give Me the Prize. I love those two songs. And of course it has Friends Will Be Friends. And the title track as well. And Who Wants to Live Forever is just an epic song from Queen. Always loved it. And moving on to number 9, I put Darkness Descends by Dark Angel. This is an all-time classic album, super underrated. If you're a diehard metalhead, everyone knows this album. It's just incredible. Standout tracks, this title track for the opener, The Burning of Sodom, and I guess Merciless Death I would choose. Great album, great drumming from Hoagland, just an all-around incredible album. I love it. Had to make my top 10. At number 8, Nuclear Assault's album debut, Game Over. Another thrash classic. You'll notice in the 80s, I'm a diehard thrash head, so the majority of my picks are thrash. But I love Nuclear Assault's debut. It's one of my favorite thrash albums from this time period. Had to be on my list. Love the cover art. Standout tracks, Betrayal, Cold Steel, and I guess Sin. And at number 7, I have the debut from Flotsam and Jetsams, Doomsday for the Deceiver. My favorite Flotsam album. Flotsam's really good. They're really thrashy, but they have a lot of melody. A little bit more melody than most thrash bands of this time period, but I love the way they sound. Even their new albums are really solid. They put out solid stuff throughout their career. Standout tracks, Hammerhead, Iron Tears, and Metal Shock. And at number 6, I have the debut from King Diamond, Fatal Portrait, I should say. I love King Diamond. His voice I know is a little bit off for some people. It's hard to get used to. I'm generally a bigger fan of Merciful Fate material overall, but some of the early King Diamond albums are just amazing and classic, and the debut is incredible. Songs like the title track, the Portrait, I should say, The Candle, and Dressed in White is really good too. Solid album top to bottom though, not a weak song on it. Classic all around. And at number 5, I have Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time. Another one of the string of albums in Iron Maiden's beginning that are just amazing and iconic. Love this album. One of the best artworks in metal history. Every time you look at it, you kind of catch something different. In my opinion, the first 7 Maiden albums are masterpieces, and you can't do anything wrong with those albums. Wasted Years, Stranger in the Strange Land, and Caught Somewhere in Time again. So many great songs in this album. Love this album. At number 4, I have Creator, Pleasure to Kill. Fucking love Creator. German Thrashers, another thrash album. This is their second album. I would pick Choir of the Damned, Riot for Violence, and Death is Your Savior would be my other pick from this album. All-time classic album. Again, another landmark album in the 80s. Every year there's all these landmark albums from big bands, and this is a huge thrash album for these guys. Probably their most popular, or one of them at least. Had to be near the top of my list for sure. And number 3, I have Megadeth, Peace Sells But Who's Buying. One of my favorite Megadeth albums. It's really, really good. Standout tracks, The Conjuring's really good. Peace Sells is amazing. And I would say Wake Up Dead would be another one I would pick from this album. I think Rust in Peace is my overall favorite Megadeth album of all time, but this is a close second or third for sure. And number 2, Lennon. Sorry, my cat's messing with the blind. At number 2, I have Rain in Blood by the Mighty Slayer. This is one of the greatest thrash albums of all time, if not the best thrash album. It's super heavy. It's just pummeling. It's only like 29 minutes long, but it's amazing. Every song is epic. Angel of Death, Jesus Saves, Raining Blood, of course, the title track. It's just an incredible album. I can listen to this front to back 6 times in a row, and I never get sick of it. I would say it's my favorite Slayer album by far. It's the heaviness, the riffs, the intensity. I just love it. So before I get to my number 1, just some quick Audible Mentions. I just brought up the kind of alphabetical list here of all the releases from that year. A few that didn't quite make my list. Sepultura was one that comes to mind right away that didn't quite make my list. I really like that album a lot from this year. So I'm drawing a blank right now. Why can't I find it? Ozzy Osbourne had The Ultimate Sin. That didn't quite make my list as well. And Sodom, Obsessed by Cruelty was another one that didn't quite make the list. Venom had an album out that year. Van Halen had 5150. Accept had Russian Roulette. That's another big one. Big album I really enjoyed. Didn't quite make the list. What else? There was another album. Hex had Under the Spell, another great thrash album. I love it. The other one was Voivod had Roar. That was a huge album. Didn't make my list. I love Voivod, but it's not a band I always go back to for some reason. I don't know why. They never really caught my attention fully. I like their stuff when I do listen to it, but for some reason I don't go back to it as much as I thought I would. Razor had Malicious Intent that year as well. Who else? Onslaught had The Force, another great thrasher band from UK. Motorhead had Orgasmatron, another great album. Yeah, there's just a lot of good stuff. I feel like I'm missing one though. There's another thrash album. Whiplash. Whiplash had Power and Pain. Love that album too. Great album cover, very iconic. And the Sepultura album was Morbid Visions. I don't know why I completely blanked on that one. But Morbid Visions was the Sepultura album. I couldn't put my name to it. I was having a brain fart there for a second. But yeah, some great releases that year. And my number 1, guys, you might have guessed, Metallica's Master of Puppets. Just an all-time classic thrash album. I had to put this at number 1. Metallica was so big into my early years of getting into metal, and there's a span there for 3 or 4 years where I literally listened to nothing but Metallica. It drove my brother crazy. I listened to Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All. I would listen to these, even Load and Reload, Black Album. I listened to all of them nonstop. I knew all their songs inside out. I saw them live whenever they came, and I was obsessed with Metallica. We're always my favorite band for years. Standout tracks from this album. You guys all know this album. It's not really surprising, like Battery, Master of Puppets, The Thing That Should Not Be, Welcome Home Sanitarium, Disposable Heroes, the whole album. Damage Inc., Orion, Leper Messiah. Like, it's top to bottom, just a masterpiece. And it's just an incredible album. So let me know down below, guys, what your top 10 of 1986 are. And if you like the video, again, give it a thumbs up. And stay tuned for 1987. Until next time, guys, keep it metal.